Your brand may be staying on top of current trends, but are you agile enough to stay relevant, resilient, and successful as customers, competition, and the world continues to change at a breakneck pace? I'm thrilled to share the newly revised version of my first book, The Agile Brand. I'm calling it The Agile Brand Revisited. It's been updated to reflect our continually changing world, and it provides 7 principles that form the backbone of an agile brand, offering detailed insights and actionable steps for incorporating them into your business strategy. This is the book that started it all, and I'm excited to share it with you. It's now available in print and digital formats and available everywhere. Learn more by going to the Agile Brand Guide website at www.agilebrandguide.com. Welcome to Season 5 of The Agile Brand with Greg Kihlstrom, where we talk with enterprise and technology platform leaders about the people, processes, and platforms that make marketing and customer experience successful, scalable, and sustainable. This is what creates an agile brand. I'm your host, Greg Kihlstrom, advisor and consultant for Fortune 1000 marketing and CX leaders and teams as principal and chief strategist at GK5A, and best-selling author, keynote speaker, entrepreneur, and Agile certified coach. The Agile Brand podcast is brought to you by TEKsystems, an industry leader in full-stack technology services, talent services, and real-world application. For more information, go to teksystems.com. To sign up for the Agile Brand newsletter and get the latest insights and articles on marketing technology and CX, or to purchase a copy of my latest book, House of the Customer, go to gregkihlstrom.com. You can also find all my books on Amazon and other retailers. And now on to the show. AI4, the world's premier conference discussing artificial intelligence and its many applications for business, is being held August 7 through 9 at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. I'm happy today to be joined by one of the many great speakers that will be leading the conversation in a few weeks. Today we're going to talk about AI and how it is shaping and will shape the future of the workplace. To help me discuss this topic, I'd like to welcome Alice Fournier, CIO at ISS Americas. Alice, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Really glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, looking forward to talking about this topic with you. Why don't we get started with you giving a little background on yourself and what your role as CIO entails at ISS Americas?
Yeah, absolutely. So CIO at ISS Americas means that I have oversight of all of our systems. And in the case of ISS, we are a facilities management business. So that means that I have oversight of our backend infrastructure, keeping the lights on, if you would, the computers, the phones running, keeping the organization safe, as well as a lot of our front-end system, our customer systems, because we do work across a variety of industries where we have a food business that's also a retail business. So thinking about POS, both mobile POS, physical POS. So it's a great role, lots to do, and lots to be excited about.
Yeah, sounds exciting. Nice. Well, let's get started by talking a little bit about the current impacts of artificial intelligence, as well as what it takes for an organization to implement AI in a meaningful way. Can you start by talking a little bit about, how does AI currently play a role in your work with ISS Americas, and maybe start there?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the ways that we leverage AI is to, of course, manage all of the data that we have. So thinking about the size of the workforce that we have to manage, we have a tremendous amount of people data where we leverage AI, but we also have a lot of systems that help our clients with their sustainability goals. So thinking about our food business, we leverage AI there to manage food waste or to help manage food waste. There's also different applications in facilities. So as a facilities management business, we help organizations really understand how they can do a better job managing energy consumption. So we work across janitorial services, technical services, and food services. So AI really becomes a tool across every one of our services to help understand data and then help our clients make better choices about a variety of big questions, again, some of which are sustainability driven, but we also help them with questions around managing hybrid workforces, workload, so number of people that actually come to the office. So lots of big questions. with a lot of data from significant amount of systems. So AI becomes the tool that we use to make better decisions.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, CIO, large organization, and your role entails overseeing how data is used, and because, as we know, data is a big piece of what enables AI-based tools to perform well. What do you see as the biggest challenge with data in the customers that you work with, and how is this affecting their ability to embrace AI-based solutions?
Yeah, well, I think that's absolutely the number one question when it comes to AI, right? Because it's built on data. It's built on ingesting a lot of information and then spitting out some considerations or some outputs. The quality of data remains the big question. And that's not a new question, right? Data transformation, data quality, data hygiene has been really at the heart of what IT does for many, many years. But I think that consideration and that challenge now gets really accelerated because the ability of AI to really ingest and comprehend and drive some decision making, the speed at which it gets done means that the data increasingly has to be cleaned out. It has to be, you have to be sure that whatever goes in your model really is what needs to go in there. Because if you don't, then you're really putting your decision making at risk. You're putting big decisions in a challenging place. So I would say, I mean, that's certainly an area of challenge for us as an organization, and it's one that we see with our customers now. Over time, right? And I often say that those challenges originate from what you usually see when you look at systems of an organization. You see the history, right? You see the merger, the acquisitions, the different systems, the lack of connectivity, the divestitures. The systems always tell a great story. But when you're looking at how to navigate data within these systems and within often very complicated business histories, what you get are disconnected systems. You get data that's not clean. And I think that those challenges that we tried to solve through RPA, that we're still somewhat solving through RPA, will continue and will take on a bigger challenge as we look to the future with AI. That's 100% probably the biggest challenge to address as an organization when it comes to leveraging more AI.
Yeah, yeah. And so another area, a challenge for many organizations related to data is increasing consumer data privacy regulations, which certainly benefit customers, and many brands have been dealing this, particularly global brands have been dealing with this for quite a while. Now there's at least the start of talks about AI regulation, particularly in Europe, even a little bit here in the States, even if it's a little less organized. How do you encourage your teams, your organization, and your peers and other organizations to look at where do you steer an organization in terms of AI adoption, knowing that there may be regulation coming down the road, and there's already enough consumer data privacy regulations in place?
Yeah, that's a really important question. And I think it's interesting because we are at we're an intersection where there's definitely a new appetite, right? So the fact that ChatGPT came into the consumer world, it has very clear applications. There's been this influx of people really interested in leveraging tools like ChatGPT, bringing those into the workplace. And so on the one hand, you want to stay rather conservative and pretty level-headed around what is a tool that is a solid business tool and what is a tool that's more of a consumer tool. On the other hand, so I see my role as protecting the organization, and so helping educate and helping put the right governance around what tools we are going to bring in the business and what are the implications and how are we going to do that. On the other hand, when great new technologies and software technologies get adopted at the consumer level, there's also an appetite and an understanding of these tools that I also see as my role to drive energy and enthusiasm around, because AI a year ago would be something that most folks who aren't in technology would be really worried with, wouldn't understand, would have a lot of
Yeah.
fear tied into it. Whereas now you can bring AI as a topic that you want to bring into the business. And the fact that this technology has now gotten a lot of visibility, a lot of application in non-IT people's lives helps actually remove some of the fear and bring in the organization. So I think it's both. It's supporting the innovation, supporting the enthusiasm, but doing so in a way that has solid governance and clear business outcomes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that point about just increased awareness and visibility, that's a great segue to what I wanted to talk about next. And that's really about the role of AI and the future of work, and even the role of place and the future of work as well. And so as an organization whose work deals with the workplace as ISS Americas does, including a lot of on-site in-person work environments, how has ISS changed its approach in recent years due to, the obvious? The pandemic really changed the way that the workplace was constructed. For a bit, I know things are moving back a little bit more to in person, but still, with this massive growth of remote and hybrid work, how has that changed your approach with, not only internally but with your customers?
Yeah, we are at such a great intersection. We are part of what is really one of the big questions that will drive how we work for the future. So I would say, as a starting point, I feel really lucky to be part of this big conversation. Now, as far as us specifically at ISS, so we have a workforce that's very much on the front lines. So in some cases, that workforce just continued to work through the pandemic, people working in plants, again, technical services. But more and more, we're definitely seeing a bigger load, and that would be across industries for sure, where we're over the big question on, are we returning to the office? And we see definitely people are back in offices. And of course, that has an impact, largely positive, on us. But it's interesting because now what we are also seeing, and this is where technology plays a critical role, is that the employee experience is core to why employees will go into the office. And that wasn't the case. Now, the expression that's used that I think is a valuable one is you have to earn the commute. So you have to make sure that you create an experience in the office that will absolutely be unique, be seamless, be easy. And so when you think about what we need to deliver at ISS, every time we bring in, I put on my CIO hat, of course, but every time we bring in new technologies, these technologies have new expectations for our clients' employees, as well as for our clients. Even some of the B2B technologies, now there's just an expectation that we're going to be able to support a more consumer-driven type of UX. And so I would say that primarily what we benefit from is, or what we're at the heart of, is this great conversation around return to office. But it's also for us an additional challenge to be at this intersection, because we also have to leverage AI type tools to understand how offices are, what's the load, how are people coming back? When are they back? What do you do? How do you help a client when you have 3 days in the office where rooms are full and everybody's in, and 2 days where it's empty? And so while we're seeing a big return, the way we leverage technology to understand what that return actually looks like on site is pretty exciting, and lots of new tools popping up that enable us to provide better data to our clients.
Before we continue, I want to tell you about the upcoming AI4 2023 conference, August 7 through 9 in Las Vegas at the MGM Grand. AI4 2023 brings together business leaders and data practitioners to facilitate the responsible adoption of artificial intelligence and machine learning technology. The conference features leaders from brands like Amazon, JP Morgan Chase, CVS, Estee Lauder Companies, UPS, New York Life Insurance, United Healthcare, and many more. While it's not specifically for marketers and CX professionals, there are plenty of topics both directly and indirectly related to the work you do every day. To learn more and register for the conference, go to ai4.io/USA/register. That's ai4.io/USA/register. And you can register with the code AgileBrand for 15% off your registration. That's AgileBrand, all one word. I'm excited to hear from this amazing lineup of speakers and thought leaders and hope to see you in Las Vegas. Make sure to register at ai4.io/USA/register with the code AgileBrand for 15% off your registration. Now let's get back to the show. And so where do you see AI helping to augment the workplace? You mentioned, that there are some tools already in place, but where do you see it going in the near future as far as, the challenges notwithstanding about, access to data and all those kinds of things? Where do you see AI helping to augment, your customers' work and the workplace in general?
Yeah, there is so much. I'll pick a few, but this is a topic I
Yeah,
could go on for a long time on. I mean, one of probably the coolest technologies I've seen is space management, but based on behavioral data. So if you think about the way you connect via Teams, so this is really truly at the heart of the hybrid world. So think about how you behave on Zoom meetings and Teams meeting and your emails, and that's a whole data set. Right? So you may connect more often with person A than with person B. You might, I don't know, have teams that connect more typically than you initially thought. And so the behavioral data behind these systems are tools or are insights that actually enable us to help drive the way people can set up their physical spaces. So there's great partnership out there that we leverage in order to help us really understand. And if you think about the benefit, and this is, again, truly, in my view, the heart of the hybrid world, where you're going to find out that you might have expected, I put an example out there, but that sales and finance were connecting often. But when you look at the back end data, when you look at the actual ways people interact, and that's of course not what they say, it's what they do, right? So it's firsthand data. You may find out that sales actually connects with marketing more often. And so then you can leverage that data to reshape the way you build your office. And so back to what is a great employee experience? How do I earn the commute? Well, I want to be sure that the people I need to work with or want to work with are located physically near me in the building. And so that's one way that I think is really, really interesting to leverage this kind of data to make better decisions, to understand who are the leaders who may not be in the office and should be in the office because they're very, very connected leaders. And so using this kind of information in the back end, the virtual information to make physical choices, I think that's very, very cool. We also, there's a lot on cleaning requirements, right? So we offer the DNA of our business is janitorial. And when you think about, expectation on how often you should clean bathrooms, it's very different in a hybrid world. But how do we leverage data? So there's some cool technology out there to ensure that we have an understanding of when do we need to put our cleaning teams where. There's also great robots that augment their work, which are also AI driven. So there's tons in the space of just cleaning, which when you think about AI, you're not thinking cleaning services, but it is very much impacted by these technologies. And the last one, that I also absolutely love, and I come back to really often. So we have fantastic chef. Our brand in the U.S. is called ISS Guggenheimer, and so we provide cafe type services in offices. And when it comes to food waste, that's a huge carbon footprint challenge, because food is expensive to produce and can drive a lot of waste if you're not careful. And so we have this fantastic AI tool that is set in kitchens and that enables our chefs to keep track of all the food waste. So cool AI system where every time you put something in a garbage, it picks it up, it reads what is it that you're disposing of, and it can even help you create recipes. So it can highlight, hey, if you got rid of these broccoli stems, you could have made broccoli soup. And with that, in the end, it helps you visualize, if the more you save, how many meals you've saved overall by being more mindful of your food waste. So for us, again, as sometimes you wouldn't think facilities management is where there's so much going on with AI, but we actually leverage it across service lines.
Yeah, no, that's so interesting. And yeah, it's amazing how many and how diverse the applications can be, and stuff that you'd never think of. Not me not being in that business per se. Like it's really interesting to think about that. And so you mentioned the food waste component, and so just sustainability and in general, and sustainability and ESG are certainly a growing focus for a lot of businesses too. And so, you mentioned that example, but how else do you see AI playing a role in ESG in the months and years ahead?
Yeah, huge role, because of course the key component I mean, there's all the actions that organizations take,
Yeah,
right? But you have to measure and you have to track them, and all of this is data driven. And in order to understand the data and triangulate it, because it's not just about having a visual, it's about driving action, driving insights, and really understanding. AI, in my view, is core component to that. I think there are two more ways that I'm really excited about. A big one for us is energy consumption in real estate, because consider our clients who have invested over many, many years, huge real estate footprint, whether it's offices, airports. And suddenly, especially when it comes to offices, their workload is very different. And
yeah,
so if you triangulate the workload needs in the hybrid world and people showing up at the office 2-3 days at most, but all in the same 2-3 days, and then you may have empty or near empty offices on Mondays and Fridays, then AI and the right, generally Bluetooth type technology can help you determine what is it that you need to do in these 2 days where you have a lot of fewer people in the office to manage your energy consumption. And so that's a great piece of technology to understand, again, how do you, and it's good for business and it's good for the world. So it's a win-win, but really helping understand energy consumption and how to manage it better in a hybrid world. That's a huge space. We also have another great conversational AI tool that we're deploying now. So back to as a business, we're very much a frontliner business, a huge workforce, and as is often the case in these types of industries, a fair amount of turnover that we see every year. And so with that, hiring in is something that we do at scale. So in order to remove bias in hiring and to serve other needs, but certainly that is one of them, we're deploying conversational AI tool, which helps us to remove that bias, to ensure that we don't bring a human lens to our hiring, or we do so at a point where the AI has done its job to filter through different resumes and really give everyone a chance, which of course we strive to do as humans, but we know that as humans we are biased. And so very, very excited to bring this conversational AI tool, which helps us do better and really challenge our own biases. So I think it's across the ESG spectrum that we can leverage technology, leverage AI. But again, it's you have to be mindful of the data going in, and you have to be intentional about which technologies to bring and where do they best fit your business needs, because you always run the risk of getting lost in a world that has so much available technologies.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it sounds like there's no shortage of avenues to pursue. But yeah, no, that's great stuff, and really exciting here. Last topic I wanted to touch on, and we've touched on this a little bit throughout the conversation, but I want to focus a little bit on what exactly the optimal role of machines versus humans, AI versus humans, in the workplace. And, versus probably isn't the right way to phrase that either, because, we're not in the movie The Terminator or anything like that. But, I don't believe it's an either or scenario. But, at the same time, we can't say that AI and software isn't going to replace any human jobs. In the news recently, even a few companies have already kind of come out and said that they're able to replace at least some roles and tasks within roles, at least with AI. But from my standpoint, and from what a lot of others are saying, the outlook is not all bad. There's some positives there too. Can you talk a little bit about what's the optimal way to integrate AI with humans at work? And, where do you see that moving towards in the near future?
Yeah, and I agree. It's definitely not all bad, and it's never all bad. It's generally,
Yeah.
it's generally how you implement it. But I think, and that's been a huge passion point for me for a long time. But I've always said technology is a people business, and it's always in the end about people. Whenever I hear that about AI, I go back to in my career, spent a lot of time, probably the bulk of my career, on e-commerce and really shopping online and the disruption.
The reality is striking. While we can stream movies on demand and order anything to our doorstep within a click, healthcare interactions often feel needlessly complex. Healthcare marketers, this one's for you. In Shop, Stream, Heal, author Adeline Ashley shares actionable insights from industry leaders like Netflix, Amazon, and Delta, showing how healthcare can thoughtfully adapt their winning strategies. This isn't about technology for technology's sake. It's about making healthcare more accessible, intuitive, and human. Drawing from real-world successes and lessons learned, the book shows you how to create healthcare experiences that truly meet patient needs while preserving clinical excellence. Shop, Stream, Heal by Adeline Ashley features a foreword from Dave O'Flanagan, CEO of Sitecore. It's published by the Agile brand and now available in print and digital formats on Amazon. Go to shopstreamheal.com for more information.
And I read years and years ago, it was called retail apocalypse, or some version of that word, where no one was going to go in a store anymore, and the reality is that's not how things played out, right? Online shopping, e-commerce drove a new way of shopping, with some people who adopted it strictly, others who didn't, the bulk of the population, which adopted portions of it. But the fundamental appreciation for shopping, experience of shopping, remained. It just became with different vehicles. And so for me, when we think about AI, it is the same thing. I don't think any full segment, although it can happen, that a segment or a role gets impacted directly and profoundly. But fundamentally, I actually think that AI has the power to augment roles across the organizations, across functions. I think that much like in this day and age, no matter where you are in an organization, you must understand how technology plays a role in your role. And that's as much if you are working as a cleaning team as if you are working as a CEO. It doesn't matter where you are in the organization, technology plays a role. And as an employee, it's really your role, enabled by the CIO, enabled by learning and development, to really understand how that plays out in your role. And so I think that AI will be the same thing. I'm pretty certain that in 5 years' time, everyone or a lot of folks will be able to understand how AI comes in and truly augments what they're doing, because a lot of folks are working with different data sets, and will be able to leverage AI to accelerate their decision making, and that will be an expectation. But that's how I see it play out, which is another tool that gets to augment. Going back to the food waste and to our fantastic chefs in kitchens, it will never be on the chefs to understand how the AI works, but it will be on them to look at the data, to look at how they're doing, to challenge their own ways based on the output of that AI. So that's how I tend to think about these technologies that are, feel very disruptive when they appear, and especially in the chat GBT, where, suddenly everyone and everything. But fundamentally, they tend to plateau a bit and just become tools that augment what we do. And organizations who figure out, and again, that's often the case with data and with technology, that sweet intersection of art and science, because it is a little bit of that. These are the organizations that will leverage it successfully, and in the end, will win bigger, because AI, when used with the right data and successfully with art and science, with people who understand how to challenge the outputs, will drive success for organizations.
Yeah, yeah. I love that you use the term augment. I've used that a couple times myself as well, because I do think that's the best way to look at it. And so, what would your advice be then to leaders that, maybe there's some anxiety among the ranks as far as, what role, again, people are just kind of getting back into the workplace, in the office in some cases, and there's a lot of anxiety just in general. What would your advice be to leaders that whose team members may be thinking about the impact that AI might have on them?
I think that it's with any technology. The starting point is to remove the fear, to make it accessible, and to see how it can help to support even different abilities. I saw a great study. I'm part of an MIT program where they shared a great study where AI was helping people who weren't as successful in their role by leveraging different AI models were helped and were able to deliver more successfully on some work that some write-ups that they were doing. And so I think you have to remove the fear, show the value. And again, that's always the same thing with technology, and invest in learning. The beauty of AI is that it is new, so everyone can learn. Some might start a little bit ahead of others, but fundamentally, there's a learning opportunity. And as increasingly in organizations, I'm certainly a huge believer of developing skills over degrees, especially when it comes to technology. And so it is about celebrating growth mindset, celebrating those who jump in, who are willing to give it a try, are willing to learn. And that is, I think, how you bring it constructively and meaningfully in the organization. So new technologies to me are always an opportunity to bring new people who are willing to learn into and shining a light on them. And so I think AI will also enable that. But fundamentally, it's always about people. So this time again will be about showing the value to people, then leverage it for the benefit of the business.
Yeah, yeah, love it. Well, Alice, thanks so much for joining the show. One last question before we wrap up here. As I mentioned at the top of the show, you and your colleague, Courtney Olson, will be presenting at the AI4 show in a few weeks in Las Vegas. Could you give us maybe a little sneak peek here, a little detail on what you'll be talking about at the conference, as well as what you're looking forward to at the show?
Yep. So we will be talking about AI in facilities management. Again, we're very, very lucky to be at the confluence of these big questions around how do you bring employees back into offices. So that will be the core of what we discuss. Some of the technologies that we touched on a little bit, as well as others, will be discussing, Courtney and I. So very excited to engage. Hard to tell what I'm looking for the most. I have been looking at all the presenters. I mean, the thing that is always exciting to me is application, right? So there's a lot of discussions on AI as a whole, as a concept. I am very excited to hear how people are actually, or peers are currently applying it in the day to day. Where do they see the value? So I'm beyond the marketing around AI, what are real world applications that are driving value for organizations, and excited to share how we drive value for ours with people who would benefit from that information. So very excited to attend in just a couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and agreed. I think the diversity that the application is pretty interesting. I'm really looking forward to being there and seeing you there as well. So again, I'd like to thank Alice Fournier, CIO at ISS Americas, for joining the show. You can learn more about Alice, ISS, and the AI4 conference by following the links in the show notes. Thanks again for listening to the Agile Brand with Greg Kihlstrom podcast, brought to you by Tech Systems. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to subscribe on your podcast channel of choice and leave us a rating so that others can find the show more easily. You can access more episodes of the show at www.gregkihlstrom.com. That's GREGKIHLSTROM.com. To get a copy of my latest book, House of the Customer, visit my website, or you can find it on Amazon or other retailers. The Agile Brand is produced by Missing Link, a Latina-owned, strategy-driven, creatively fueled production co-op. From ideation to creation, they craft human connections through intelligent, engaging, and informative content. Until next time, stay agile.